Welcome in to Trust the Process Live. It's Monday, so we're live. We're here with you. We got a whole bunch to talk about. There's we can talk about a bunch of things from across that sports complex we call home, down on the end of South Broad Street. We're gonna stick to the confines, the unfriendly confines of Lincoln Financial Field today, mainly because, as we all know, the 2021 NFL Draft unceremoniously gave us a bunch to talk about. Some good, some bad, and a little bit of in between. While we get them back on the air, my name is James Hyden. I am your host. As sometimes you'll catch a week without me, and our guy Josh Stafford will host. But as always, I'm joined by my guys here. YG, young gentleman James Jackson. How are you, my guy?
I'm good, man. It's hard to be a gentleman. We got umps out there snatching home runs away from my boy Reese and bringing them back, man. Uproar. And here's the thing. I've always been a proponent of replay and get the right call until it bites me in the ass. And that was one of those where I was like, oh, are we really going to take that back just because you can now see it on a different angle? That's a home run. Someone hits it 381 feet, whatever, if he should have hit it 382.
I was in a good mood. I was in a good mood.
I've been pissed about it ever since last night. I couldn't wait to just get it off my chest. That may be what goes on my board. My board is blank right now, and I might just put that on my board right there. You
had to go and do that to me. Golly. Max, the man of digits, the man of single digits, because that's where Devonta Smith is probably going to land with his numbers when he takes the field for the Philadelphia Eagles. Max Coolish, how are you?
I'm good. Some people might say I'm on the hot seat because of a tweet that I put out on draft night. I would disagree.
Yeah, he is.
I would disagree. I would say it's about time I got a new Eagles jersey. I'm pumped.
Ooh, we could be seeing some new threads here from Digits. But now I got to introduce our very special guest today from PHL Sports Nation, all the way from Michigan today. We have our guy, Fred Jolicoeur. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys. I really do appreciate it. And again, I'm not a dedicated Phillies fan, but I do want to say I did have a prop bet for them to have 3 home runs. They ended with 2. So that also hurt my wallet as well as your feelings. So I'm right there with you.
Hey, man, we fighting the same battle today, man. We fighting the same battle.
In all honesty, that might have hurt you a little bit more than us, Rick. I don't know how.
Yeah, I have money on the line. My pride is just hurt. I have money.
I took the Phillies money line right before the game started because I was going to watch them anyway, and I was bored.
Well, it was not a good day for us yesterday on the sports book, but it was a pretty good weekend for the Eagles in terms of the draft. So we're going to get into the whole of the draft a little bit later, and then how we feel about it, how we feel about the people making those picks. But we're going to start off with the immediate reactions. All right, we got to start off with the immediate reactions, and specifically of round 1. Okay, I think we all know what that means, and I think I know what that means in terms of where we're checking tape and how that relates to me. So I'll save my comeuppance for the end. We'll start around the
horn. Talk about a hot seat.
You got a lot of splaining to do over there, Mr. Hyden.
I'll splain, okay? I'll splain, but not right now. So, JJ, start us off. Immediate reactions. First round, Devonta Smith. After trading back, they trade up a couple spots again. Give it to me.
I got our one of our producers, Zach James, right here in the comments live saying I give the Birds a B-. That's probably exactly where I'm at with their grades. Giving them a B-. But my initial reaction isn't a grade. My initial reaction was, damn, Howie did it right. I'm on my high horse, right? I'm in a different place, a different mindset. I'm in a utopia during the draft. I'm back at 32 as the king in the Coliseum watching you guys wrestle for the top 10 picks down there to try to get one on your team. So I wanted chaos. I wanted Howie to make this big, bold, brash move to try to move back early inside the top 5, top 10, top 5, go maybe get a quarterback or Kyle Pitts or something, like really shake up the draft. And he didn't. He waited. He let the draft come to him. He let a clear move come to him and then jumped the Giants to go get what everyone thinks, what a lot of people think is the premier wide receiver of this draft, the Heisman Trophy winner. So, I was tremendously impressed by that first round move Howie made. Now, going through the rest of the draft, I think it started to waver a little bit. I think the Eagles should have paid a little bit more attention to the defensive backfield than they did, waited until the third round to go get it. Although they did get a first-team All-Big 12 cornerback. So even when he waited, he went and got a very high-touted prospect for that position. So that's why it kind of lands in the B-. I maybe even bump it up to a B+ range because of that. Go get another lineman from Alabama, Landon Dickerson, who everyone's very high about too. To fill the need. Like, there have been so many drafts where Howie didn't fill the needs. And then you talk about wide receiver, defensive back, offensive line. Like, he went and got the needs. So for as much criticism as we give Howie, like, he could have really Howie Roseman this draft. He had all the draft capital to do it. We're sitting in a prime position to really fumble this one, and he did it. What is it, a home run? No, but he didn't fumble it, and he should get credit for not doing that.
Okay, all right. There was a home run that squeaked over the wall in the first, in my eyes, and then there was a couple bloopers in the later rounds. But
there were bloopers in the later rounds. Absolutely, the bloopers in the later rounds. Absolutely, but hey,
Max Coolish, immediate thoughts and reactions, my man.
My immediate, maybe I'm just riding the high of getting Devonta Smith in the first round, but I think this was a really, really good draft for the Eagles. A big thing, JJ, I just want to touch on this. I know you mentioned you wish they got after the defensive backfield a little bit more. I think there's 5 prospects in next year's top 16 that are corners or safeties or something like that. I know the Devonta Smith, film of him torching Slingley or Stingley, I forget his name on LSU. It's one of the two. That video of Devonta Smith torching him is going around the Eagles airwaves. But it's important to know that, there's multiple cornerbacks that are going to be top, 16 or 20 picks next year.
You can look to next year's draft because
exactly. I think we've all been in agreement that this is going to be a 2-year rebuild, right? I totally understood the reason that they stayed away from corner, especially until late. I thought they got great value out of a lot of their late round picks. I would say that, to me, maybe the most questionable pick was third round going D tackle, and I think there was probably maybe better options on the board at that point in time. But I will say that I think they got insane value out of Gainwell, the running back they took from Memphis, who, if you guys didn't see, Eagles linebacker Sean Bradley on Twitter said that he was a huge fan of the pick, said that he was a monster in college when he played against him. I thought they got great value out of Gainwell and Zach McCormick in the 5th as well. There was some people that had him as rated as high as a top 120 prospect. If you want to go by those standards, then it's obviously a really, really great pick for him. One thing that I want to touch on, because I feel like that the Dickerson pick is maybe the most contentious among Eagles fans. I can totally understand why. Like, I get the why did they do it side of things, but I actually really, really like this pick. I think this is as classy as a classic of a Howie pick as you're going to find. A lot of injury problems in college. Huge potential. But I think that this addresses a really important need that they must think might not be available next year in some capacity. And replacing Jason Kelce is going to be the biggest task that this general management group is going to go through, other than trying to build a repeat Super Bowl roster, because that's probably the hardest task any management group can go through. But replacing Jason Kelce is going to be, it's going to be a monumental task. Everyone knows what he means to this team, right? And getting a guy that can slide in as a starter this year. This isn't even a backup quarterback project where he's redshirting for a year and just learning. There's a very real chance that Dickerson, provided stays healthy, starts a majority of games at guard. And I mean, Kelce was a 50-50 to retire this year. Those odds are not going to get any better after another year of finishing, under 500 in the top 10 to 12 picks again. So there's a very, very realistic chance that Kelce's, last year is next year. And I think getting his replacement before he's gone is huge, because think about the amount of pressure that's relieved from, the big difference is this: getting drafted when you have the year to learn under the guy, or getting drafted when he's already retired and you're immediately required to step into his shoes. There's a big difference in terms of what goes on in the head of a 21 or 22, 23-year-old.
I guess I'll save that for
I think Eagles fans are anticipating Dickerson sliding into that role sooner than later. I think maybe that's where the the frustration with the pick was, because if you're gonna go grab someone who's gonna take over immediately for Kelsey, let's not get one who's injury prone.
I think it's right because he's probably gonna be the sixth offensive lineman in big sets right at the very beginning of this year.
It's the red shirt.
Sayamalu has been, he's been a guard. That's all I'm gonna say. He's been a guard that's maybe a little bit worse than league average, and I don't know. I think if you're talented as they say this guy is, he can definitely push for that spot.
All right, so Fred, my man Fred, immediate reactions to this Eagles draft. Give it to me.
I think kind of similar to Max. I was just riding the high. For me, going into the draft, there were 4 players that I thought the Eagles that I would have liked them to have. It was the 2 Bama wide receivers and the 2 cornerbacks that were sitting there. As soon as the 3 were gone, I became very nervous and thought, Howie was going to Howie, and we were going to pick at 12 and do something stupid. And then as soon as I saw that trade come up with Dallas, what's the reasoning behind that? Why would Dallas trade to us? That makes no sense to me. But I love it because we got to screw the Giants one more time, which always feels good, especially after that week.
Champs, baby.
After that week 17, debacle of them deserving to be in the playoffs. Was just great. So I love that. And I honestly didn't love Devonta Smith going into it. Obviously he's a transcendental player. He's a great wide receiver and he put up stats. There's no denying that. But the obvious knock is the size, so that it was a concern. But that was the last of the 4 guys that I wanted the Eagles to snag, but he was still sitting there. So for me, it was considered a win because if we didn't pick at 10, we would have picked at 12. And it would have gone very poorly. Outside of that, there's ups and downs of the whole draft. The defensive tackle in the 3rd round was questionable, but everything I'm seeing as far as highlights and recaps, they all seem positive. But who knows? You never truly know. I think for me, the biggest thing was undrafted. We got Newman out of Wake Forest. We didn't have to spend a draft pick to get him. So that was kind of win-win to me. We get a backup who's a proven winner. I know it's at Wake Forest, but he's played a lot of ball down there, and we didn't spend a draft pick doing it. So it was kind of a win-win for me there.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, I think the Newman signing is going to fly under the radar, unfortunately, but the kid has an unbelievable skill set. I mean, Kirby Smart wanted him to play for him at Georgia before that whole JT Daniels fiasco where he decided to opt out because of COVID, this, that, and the other thing. The key thing to take away from that is Newman is a very talented player who they got as a steal for UDFA for a very, very cheap price.
And wait, real quick, you say that you don't know why the Cowboys would let you jump the Giants like that. I think I know why. You choose the lesser of 2 evils in that standpoint. Both of these teams are going after Devonta Smith. I think the Cowboys made a decision that I'd rather Devonta Smith on the Eagles than I would on the Giants for the foreseeable future. And I don't think that should offend Eagles fans. I don't think that should offend the Eagles. No. But because at the end you get Devonta Smith, like it's 1 or 2, but. I do think they're right. I think Devonta Smith is a little bit more lethal in the Giants offense than he is with a team who's still trying to figure it out right now.
I think it might even be simpler than that. I think Jerry Jones and the Jonesettes, the sons that he has and flowing throughout that organization, I think it might just be them just saying, hey, you know what? They're giving us mid-round picks to move up 2 spots. I'll take that, and we're focusing on our board. You know what I mean? We're focusing on building our team our way. And if you want to give us mid-round picks to jump up 2 spots and take wide receiver and throw them into your rebuild, we'll take that. Have fun. We're still getting our guy. So it's time for me to take a half step back.
Do what you do.
And if you watched or listened to us last week, by the way, you can find us wherever you get your podcast platforms. That's how a bunch of you listen to me give my hottest take of the season so far. I'm going to half step it back. A lot of you have heard and watched me I don't want to say talk ill because, again, I'll say it again. I wish nothing but the best for Devonta Smith. I just let my feelings on him be known. That being said, the way the board played out, he was the best player available. So I will give my applause to Howie Roseman and the organization for sticking to their board and making the correct pick at 12. Okay, that's like they heard the Giants wanted him. They heard the Giants were going to take him if he fell to them. So Howie did the right thing, and honestly, he didn't give up too much to go up 2 spots and grab the guy that they coveted. So I will give my applause to Howie right there. I think that it was the right pick for the way the board fell. Obviously, Fred, like you mentioned, the 2 cornerbacks were not there who I had paraded forward. I would have gone quarterback if either of them were there. So again, my applause to Howie for the right first round pick at that point. This is kind of where this is the point of contention for me. And I heard Dave Sangaro say this earlier on the Farzy show of Mark Farzetta. The second this Landon Dickerson pick is going to be where this draft class is decided. Like this is what's going to determine the success or failure of this draft class, unless Devonta Smith goes on and has a Hall of Fame career. Like it's don't get me wrong, Landon Dickerson is a top 25 talent in this draft class, but he's coming off 4 successive major injuries, both ACLs and both ankles. Okay, that's like that is to take that in the second round pick. I personally, like, there's not a lot of people in the NFL that would have had the balls to go up there and make that pick just because of where you're taking him. Like, the value is really tough to argue for being in there in the second round, no matter what he turns out being. It's unless he absolutely comes out of here, steps on the field, and becomes Steve Hutchinson all of a sudden. The second round pick is a very tough sell for me in terms of value because he's going to be redshirted. And I think I would feel better about it if the medical staff of the Philadelphia Eagles wasn't what it is. I think that's fair enough to say, because we saw a situation, literally carbon copy of the situation, except for 3 less major injuries with Sidney Jones. Sidney Jones had 1 major injury, and now Landon Dickerson has 4. Same round, different positions. So
I think it's always fair to call the Eagles, the Philadelphia medical staff, into question. Like I always think it's fair when brought to the table.
Right, and let's not forget, it was a late season ACL tear. It was the SEC championship, so it's not like the kid's coming in here with a full off season. He's completely reached his knees completely redone. He's still working his way back. Okay, like it's not like he's ready for OTAs, even if there were any. It's not like he's completely ready for mini camps and training camps. Like this is, to me, this is a tough sell right here. So and don't get me wrong, I hope Landon Dickerson pans out. But for the second round, this is very ambitious. I think this is slightly a reach. I know a bunch of people were high on him, but it is what it is. I think Milton Richardson could turn out to be a sneaky good flyer in the third round. It's coming out today that there's a bunch of scouting staffs across the league that were very high on Milton. So I think he could be a very interesting prospect at that 3 technique spot, just as crashing that one gap and getting pressure on the quarterback. Max, you touched on it. Zach Mcpherson out of Texas. What's TCU? No, Texas.
I think it's Texas.
Texas
Tech. Yeah. Underrated player right here. He graded out in the top 5 of every coverage stat. Stat. Oh, I can't talk today. Coverage stat. In a Power 5 conference. Like this could be a very underrated signing and something that everybody was kind of painting for in Philadelphia. Obviously, huge value with Kenny Gainwell. And then the D lineman, Toli Tupu out of USC. Yeah. He was projected. Yeah, I apologize if I butchered your name if you ever see this.
All right, buddy.
But he was projected as a mid-round kind of guy. So I think they did very well. And obviously, I touched on it before, the Jamie Newman as a UDFA. So I'm right with our guy Zach James out there as a B-. I could even go to a B for the draft. I think Howie surprised some people. I think
surprised the hell out of me.
Weird reaction when they got the Milton Richardson pick came out. And obviously, that weird situation with Donahoe, the fist bump. And I think people didn't. There wasn't the name recognition, so people were like, "Oh God, Howie's starting to Howie." But I think that kind of evened out, and people are starting to realize, like, "Wow, this was actually a solid draft."
For the man picking it, it could be a hell of a lot worse. Like, it could be a hell of a lot worse. It's a solid draft.
That's a fair point. I think that's a fair point. So did I walk it back enough, guys? Like that it was what I said.
You did, but you justified yourself. I was looking for a complete ownership of the take.
Well, hey, it's not like I completely switched my stance. Like, hey, like last week, I don't think this kid can
play.
You
didn't say anything about the player. You just gave Howie props for making the move, sticking to his board.
Whatever. I'm wondering about the player that you were so big to ridicule. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about it. I didn't say anything about his play.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, whatever. So speaking on that, we just touched on a bunch of things with our boy Howie there. And Fred, I'm going to come right back around to you. What does this draft class do to you? Notwithstanding the awkward fist bumps with Donahue, we're going to take that out and just look at the whole on paper. What does this draft class do to you in terms of your faith in Howie Roseman? Did it restore it? Are we still on speaking terms, or what? How do you feel?
Yeah, very skeptical. Kind of like with Devonta Smith, where I love it, but I didn't love it. 3 hours before the draft happened, so I'm trying not to get too comfortable with it. Trying not to, get him in my comfort zone. I loved it. I loved the draft. I loved everything he did. And like you said, fist bump aside, I wouldn't have anything to complain about or say anything kind of rub me the wrong way. That the fist bump was a very, very bad look, but I think it removed him off the hot seat until he does something stupid soon enough. I still don't love him, but I think it gets him off the hot seat for at least a year.
At least until they start sucking.
Fred, I'm going to tell you the same thing I'm going to tell all Eagles fans. Know your worth. Don't let this toxic man do one good thing and come running back to him. Just because he picked the low-hanging fruit in the first round and made a good move to do it doesn't take away from the fact that he's probably the biggest reason you guys are in this hole in the first place, picking here in the first place. So like I give props to Howie. Faith? Do I have faith in him? No. Ooh, can I close my eyes and just assume the best is going to happen? No. There's a reason the entire city of Philadelphia could not breathe when Goodell was making the pick he was announcing. Literally couldn't breathe. Yeah. And then the exhale that I felt from the Philadelphia area when he said Devonta Smith, like the ground lifted a little bit. Like you guys were all so tight about the pick. I'm over here hoping for chaos. I'm over here hoping.
And speaking of shaky, our guy Justin in the comments, he agrees with me a little bit on this Landon Dickerson pick, and say it with me now. See, guys, he goes injury prone.
Shaky baby. Shout out my boy Jut. Yes, sir. He already knows what's going on.
A little bit, but Max. How are we feeling, my man? Because you're the grassroots. You're our connection back to reality here in this city of brotherly love. Where's your faith level at? If it's not faith, tell me what it is.
I mean, I'll say this, right? Like, I think that after this year, this is definitely the best I've felt about the draft in a while. Like, all objections is like all bias, this is probably the best I felt about a draft since we made the move for Wentz, and that was just because of the promise of having something to be excited for. But I gotta say, this has definitely been their, at least on paper, what seems like their most complete draft in years. I think they did a really good job in terms of addressing important positions. I mean, they kind of stuck to their roots in terms of going for it with offensive linemen and defensive linemen. I'm always going to have huge praise for the Devonta Smith pick. That's never going to change regardless of whatever happens this year. But I mean, JJ may have been a little dramatic about it, but he has a point not to get sucked back into it.
I feel you wanting to do it, man. I feel you wanting to pull out the phone and
I know. Part of me doesn't want to do it. I'll say this. I certainly feel better knowing that after this draft and seeing how he/they as an organization did, it makes me feel a lot less. I don't want to say scared because that feels too. It makes me feel a little bit less tense about the idea of having 3 first-round picks next year, because next year is the important draft in my mind. And I think that them having a good showing this year I think that's pretty important in terms of establishing a foundation and a trust for next year when it matters way more. I mean, 3 first-round picks next year, that's a franchise-changing draft. And any draft can be a good draft, when you have a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, fourth-round pick, 2 fifth-round picks. But franchise-changing drafts are the ones where you have 4 more picks in the first 2 rounds. And next year is a potential franchise-changing draft. And the solid but not all-time great job that they did is enough for me to be like, okay, next year I have faith that they're going to continue building this team the right way.
Okay. All right, JJ, lay it on me.
I mean,
what is it?
Look. I think I got most of it off my chest. Like you guys want, I can see it. You guys both are getting like graduation goggles. Like you're Max before he gives a definitive answer. He's saying, you're stating all the positives of the draft and everything good that he's done. Like, he's changed. He's moved out of his parents' house. He got his own job. He's like all the stuff that you're like, oh, Howie's a good guy now. No, I have faith in Howie now. Just prepare yourself, save yourselves. But I do think you make a really good point, Max. When we talk about this year's draft was the prove yourself draft for those 3 first-round picks next year. And good for Howie for not using them, because that's part of the capital that I'm saying he has like arrows in his socket right now to be able to use something to make this wild, game-changing move that Howie thinks he can do, but he didn't. He didn't do more than he had to. He kept the capital that he has in the bank for next year and still made the right pick, and it was a very good pick. So those are the kind of moves that show an owner like, okay, I can trust him with the 3 firsts we have next year, even if it's not to use them as the draft, because we know how he loves to go in free agency and do stuff. So even if it's not for the draft, I trust that he's going to use these 3 first-round picks in the right manner, in the right way. So for that, I give him a lot of credit. But the question is faith restored in Howie Roseman? Faith? Faith. I don't know, man.
I got one quick thing before we move on. I know that the MO from every organization across any sport will always be, we try to tune out the outside noise. But I think you would be quite amiss to think that after years of hearing the fan base telling him to stop being cute, what did the Eagles do? They drafted mostly SEC, mostly guys from down south. 1 Pac-12 player late at a position that they clearly prioritize higher than.
Big names from big programs, like how we finally got it. Like, there's a reason this dude went to Alabama. There's a reason this dude went to Texas Tech.
Exactly. And I think the McCormick and the McCormick is probably the best example of this, right? Like, I'm sure there's probably some project, something that was available when they took him, right? That dude was first team all Big 12 last year.
McPherson, Max. McPherson.
It's McPherson. I'm sorry. I thought it was
Zach McPherson.
He's not an Irish guy. What am I talking about? He's not from the Northeast. But my point is this, is that you see a guy with that kind of accolade available at a position of need. Why bother with a project? You need help at cornerback. This guy's proven himself. It's 2 + 2 = 4. Don't make this into a fractional issue with imaginary numbers and you're dividing 12 team by 0.5. You know what I mean? Take the guy with the proven accolades. Take the guy who's competed in the most offensive conference in the country and has made it to first team all defense. That counts for something. I don't want to keep using that pick as a pick of reference, but to me, that's probably the best overall pick. The Devonta Smith one's easy to say it's the best overall pick because he's the Heisman winner, he's the big name. But in terms of production to projection to value, I think that you're having a hard time finding better than McPherson.
So what I'll say is free agency is for filling holes immediately, and the draft is for the future. So I'll always I've never really wavered off this point. I don't really think many people have, because if you got to give Howie credit for something, it's free agency and trades. He is an above average GM at those two facets. But let's be honest, the draft is probably the one or two, 1A, 1B as the importance as a general manager in the NFL. So going off that, would caution against people, and I don't know if there's many, but I would caution against having faith being quote unquote restored.
Right.
Because as early as the third round in the draft, Howie, and it was exposed to the world on national media as there's still serious communication problems in this organization, in terms of Howie going off script and appeasing. And there's another angle that not many people have seen of Jonathan Gannon being over the moon about the Milton Richardson draft pick. So it's to me, that's good. Your defensive coordinator being super excited about your third round D tackle is good. But seeing two clear sides of the room right there between Donahoe and Gannon, to me, that's still a little bit concerning because we all read the Athletic article Zach Berman and his cohorts put out a couple weeks ago about the dysfunction in the organization. And how he said it, there's always going to be someone upset because in scouting, you latch on to guys. You really like what you see and you fall in love with them from a personnel standpoint. But what every other organization seems to do is at least either A, keep that under wraps, or B, have enough communication and kind of collective organizational just moxie, like to keep it together. And even if you're upset with the pick, you go, okay, you know what, that's the pick. Good, here we go.
Time to move on, right? Time to move on.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that to me is very cautious, especially when next year is the important draft. And I'll say that because the board fell perfectly for Howie to be boxed in to Devonta Smith. I'm not sure that's going to happen next year. And if it's not, I think we're going to see a couple more camera angles because there's a couple more chances in the first round for Howie to Howie. You know what I mean? So it's I would caution against any sort of faith because we saw what a third round pick could do to that organization's war room. I'm worried about what the second, let alone third, first round picks will do next year when it really counts. Does that? To Fred, tell me.
No, you're.
Yeah, I think you gotta, for an Eagles standpoint, you gotta hope he bundles those picks because I don't trust him making three. I don't trust him making 3 good first round picks. That's never gonna happen. Let alone maybe 2. He'd hit at least one of them, but I would hope they bundle them in some kind of way to move up or something else because I don't see 3 successful first round picks in 1 year out of Howie. That's just not going to happen.
Fred, that's the answer to the question right there. Should faith be restored in Howie? You literally, that's the answer to the question right there. Because my question to the 2 Eagles fans down below was going to be, do you trust Howie? Do you trust Howie with 3 first round picks next year with no guidance? And your answer right there, Fred, it tells me all I need to know. You're already hoping that he's got a plan for him to bundle him and ship him out.
Yep.
Max, did I overstep?
No.
All right, cool. I'll take the head shake. That's fine. I love that. We got to remember, Max, we're in podcast form, so people can't hear your head shake. You know what I mean? So wherever people are watching, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Podbean, I saw is a new one. I don't know where it is. They can't hear your head shake. It's not audible. Okay? But I'm glad to know I didn't overstep. All right, that's very, very good. So we're going to get into our last question in the main event here, and guys, I want you guys to give me your favorite pick of the draft, whether it be talent, whether it be value, whether it be somebody you watched in college. I love the Kenny Gainwell pick mainly because I watched him absolutely eat Temple's lunch every time they played. So we're going to go back around. Fred, your favorite pick of this draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. You know what? I'll give you a caveat. Let's take away number 1. Let's take away Devonta Smith. So I'm leaving you rounds 2 through 7.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to piggyback off yours. Gainwell, I spent some time gambling on Memphis in 2019. So he always hit the home run balls. You turn the TV on, you change the channel, you turn it back on, and he's sprinting down the field. My only one concern is we have a home run hitter with Miles Sanders. So I'm curious to see how them two kind of playing together, because the concern is we're taking carries away from Miles Sanders. He needs the ball more. But we're getting Jordan Howard as well. Obviously, he's going to be the big back. But it's an exciting pick. That's what I'm excited about. I'm very interested to see how he fits into the offense and and hopefully again that doesn't take carries away from Sanders. But it's the later round sexy pick that I like.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, coming from Indy, Sirianni has experience. I mean, with that three-headed backfield of Taylor, Wilkins, Hines. So, I mean, I think that's something to be hopeful for. You know what I mean? I like it. Max, your favorite pick rounds 2 through 7.
I think it's pretty obvious that it's Mcpherson. Like I said, he's the best combination of production to projection to potential. Maybe that the Eagles have in any pick this draft, but like I said, you playing the conference known for offense and nobody plays defense. If you're the guy good enough to make the first team defense in that conference, then you deserve to be recognized.
Love it. JJ, YG, young gentleman. Who is your young gentleman of this draft?
My young gentleman of this draft. Can't really speak to any other characters. Don't know them too well. I'm sure they're all bright young gentlemen blooming in this world. But I originally wanted to try to defend the Landon Dickerson pick again, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to go to the 3rd round in Milton Williams and go to that D tackle position, because especially when you listen to Mel Kiper talking about them during the pick and everything I've read about him, it's just a high motor guy, a high reps guy, a guy who just loves to disrupt in the trenches there. And I think the Eagles are missing that. And if you can get him in on some good reps, playing him next to, Fletcher Cox and guys in the interior like that, if he can eat up a lot of space, a lot of blocks, and allow guys like Brandon Graham and others to really wreak havoc, then I think he's going to pan out to be a good pick. And in the 3rd round, he is what he is. I don't think he's expected to come in and be, take majority of the defensive snaps and be a total playmaker on this Eagles defense. But I think he can be a great compliment because of how high his motor is, how much he goes, how much activity he causes on the defensive line. That's all they were talking about when they talked about this prospect. So I think it's a good one just for that and where you got him. Like, the value meets the player perfectly at that pick. So
I love it. That's going to do it for our main event. Now, for a little bit of a halftime plug, and the second half is going to be brought to you by PHL Sports Nation, but not only are they bringing you the second half, they brought us our guy, Fred Jolicoeur, for today. So big shout out to PHL Sports Nation for all your Philly sports content needs, whether that be like we're talking the Eagles right now, the Flyers, even though you might not be too keen on the Flyers lately, the Phillies, the Sixers, and even the Union. You can find everything at phlsportsnation.com or on every social media platform. They have incredible writers like our guy Fred here. His latest article, Devonta Smith, he's the Heisman winner. He is the man. It's an acronym. I love it. So thanks again to PHL Sports Nation for bringing us Fred today. He's been awesome so far, and we're going to get into our second half right now. Here we go, boys. To start out, draft winners and losers. All right, we're going to take the Eagles off the board. And before we get into buy or sell, I want to touch on this one, draft winners and losers. So we're going to take the Eagles out. So, Fred, let's stick to one each. Let's stick to one draft winner and one draft loser, all right? So who do you got? Let's go winners first.
So winner, I'll have to go with my hometown Detroit Lions. I absolutely despise the Lions, but I thought for once, they're almost kind of like the Eagles, where I've just seen them for so long, where they draft the guy that is the sexy pick that does never pan out for them. Matthew Stafford was probably, that was a rare occasion for them to hit a home run on a player. But I just thought them getting Sewell there was pretty good value. Didn't expect him to be there, so I really like that pick. Dan Campbell didn't overthink it. Take the best player and take a position that, is always valuable in the NFL. They even got the cornerback out of Syracuse that I really liked. He's a ball hawk. I think he can, given what they've seen out of Okuda, what's going to happen this year with him. So I just thought that pick was interesting. I wanted the Eagles to snag him. So I think they kind of built something I think they went offensive line and defensive line in the second and third round. So I think they're kind of building. They're doing something smart, kind of like the Eagles, where I'm not used to seeing something like this, so I don't know how to react. I just thought they had a really, really good draft. As far as losers, that's a good question. I guess just based on what I'm seeing in the first round and what the Oakland Raiders did, I think just kind of overall their off season has been very interesting. letting their line go and then getting this guy who they could have gotten in the second round if they wanted him that bad, trade back or get something else. I just thought the Oakland Raiders, for what's Derek Carr and how long's his longevity, and it's John Gruden, so they kind of expect success. But I don't know. That was just something that kind of stood out where I don't know. I didn't think they delivered where they should have.
I agree. I like the Lions draft was one of a few very, very good drafts. So I think we agree there. Max, winners and losers. We'll go winners first.
I mean, if you guys want to call this a cop out, I can give you another one. But honestly, I think the Jags had a great draft. I mean, Trevor Lawrence
it's not a cop out at all. It's not a cop out at all.
Okay, thank you. I mean, it's so easy. Like, I mean, Trevor Lawrence makes that a cop out answer kind of almost by default. But a good friend of mine is a lifelong Jags fan just by randomness, and he, as you can imagine, someone who's been a Jags fan for the last 20 plus years, probably paid a lot of attention to the draft. So I take his opinions pretty seriously, and he's over the moon. He doesn't love the Etienne pick, but understands it. Like I really do think that we're maybe going to see this trend of guys, especially with NFL offenses just becoming kind of more of whatever, as opposed to how rigid they had been prior to the last 10 years in terms of, Smash Mouth or West Coast. Guys are just kind of doing whatever now. And I think we're maybe going to start seeing this younger generation of coaches and GMs maybe look to team up successful college teammates together. This year obviously was a prime example of that, but I think the Jaguars, they got two great offensive players in round one. They added a lot of defensive players, and they're probably not a contender this year, but I certainly think that they're good enough to surprise people and maybe in the absolute greenest of grass scenarios win that division with a lot of help from random factors across the other three teams. So I'll say the Jaguars for a winner. And for the loser, I'm trying to think here. I would say part of me wants to say the Broncos because they grabbed a cornerback when they already signed Kyle Fuller recently. And in the second round, they went and got a running back. I wasn't super impressed by the Broncos. The Raiders were definitely going to be my go-to answer for losers. But I would say the Broncos. I would say that the other two teams in that division had pretty solid drafts. The Chiefs traded their first for a premier offensive lineman, and the Chargers had an amazing draft. I'm sorry if I'm stealing one of your guys' thunders with that one, but it seems like the worst. The rich got richer in that division, and the poor got poorer in that division.
Yeah. JJ, winners and losers. Winners first.
My winner of the draft, I'm going quality over quantity with this one. The Chicago Bears. You don't have to look too far. I know it's a lot of skepticism with that pick because they've badly mishandled when they've traded up so much, traded the pot to go up and move to get a quarterback before. I understand that, but there's no way around it. Sure talent, sure eye-popping talent can make your football team better. Justin Fields is top 5 talents in this draft, and I don't fault any team for going to make a move for a guy with so much playmaking potential, especially when Max talked about it in this new age of NFL-style quarterbacks. And this is a Bears team that's not bad. This is a Bears team with a defense that's still very solid and can contend and is watching the best quarterback in their division trying to kick down the door and leave.
They made the playoffs last year.
Yeah, so
the 7th seed.
Why not? Why not go up and get a quarterback? Go get a completing piece to a puzzle. Is their offense home run? No, but I like Justin Fields, Allen Robinson, and Tariq Cohen. I like that little nucleus, that core they got in Chicago now. He fits the toughness of Chicago. He's now got a chip on his shoulder with sliding just a little bit and going the 4th quarterback in his draft. So I think the Bears got it. They had the luxury of not having too many picks in the later rounds, having no picks in the later rounds.
They got Jenkins in the second too. I can't believe you didn't say anything about that.
And then ended on top. I got 2 good picks, and I go off to the side and watch y'all duke it out in the later rounds. That's fine. So I'm picking the Bears as the winner. I think everyone in Chicago is really happy with this pick. And then for losers, I'm gonna go the Pittsburgh Steelers. They did not move the needle to me. The Najee Harris pick is cool. He's a big name from a big program, but in terms of NFL impact, I don't see him being much different than James Conner. James Conner's a starting running back in the NFL, but James Conner's not knocking your socks off. Trust me, for the guy who picked him in fantasy for the past 2 years, he's not knocking.
This is what we said last time about an Alabama running back.
What? That he's not going to be good?
Well,
and look, but Derrick Henry is different. But Derrick Henry
didn't move the needle that much at first. Derrick Henry was pretty mid. At first, when he was splitting carries with DeMarco Murray, he was good, but he was not the Derrick Henry that we know now. And also, I got to say that
the Saints beefed up an offensive line a little bit, and
it doesn't matter who the running back is for the Steelers because their offensive line, they didn't do anything to address that.
They didn't do anything to address major problems. Nothing. They had Ben restructure his contract to try to make something happen, and they didn't. Like the Najee Harris pick is definitely top heavy for them, and makes it seem if you just put that on the windowsill, makes it seem like you had a good draft because the first one you kind of you got a good talent late first round. No one's gonna blame you for taking Najee Harris when James Conner just leaves for the Arizona Cardinals, but. Like nothing, the team didn't move. None of their draft picks moved the team forward, moved the needle forward. Like they filled a void, but it didn't get better at running back. They just plug and play and keep going. Like to me, Najee Harris and James Conner are very synonymous. And then the rest of their draft didn't do anything for them. Like I think the Steelers are losers. And same with watching the rest of their division. The two teams, the Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns, two other teams in their divisions, had a great draft. And then the Bengals picked up the best receiver like in this draft class. So the three other teams in the division, I think, had a good draft. They're the only team that just fumbled it.
It's kind of weird. I think you're right about the Steelers. Like it's very uncharacteristic because the Steelers are, I mean, along with the Ravens, those are two of the most well-run organizations in all of football. And like the Steelers just like perennially have good drafts. It's just one of those things where they're like they have good, solid drafts that turn out quality players. And this felt like the first time in a very long time that the Steelers drafted for need. Like they like for positional need. And like anytime you do that, you're gonna get yourself in trouble. More often than not. So it was very uncharacteristic draft from Pittsburgh. But, I mean, you touched on it right there. My winner was going to be the Cleveland Browns just because of what they were able to do. But JJ just touched on it, so I'll give you another one in the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Talk that talk. Talk.
I mean,
they had a good one.
To do what they did, I mean, taking a guy at 23 that nobody would have had any argument about taking it at 14, moving back, grabbing 2 third-rounders to get 4 picks in the third round, that's insane value as the third tackle in the draft. Christian Darius was going to come in, day one starter at left tackle. Didn't have a second-round pick, moving on to the third. Immediately grabbing Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M, who some people are very, very high on. Chris Sims had him ranked the number 4 quarterback in this class, ahead of guys like Justin Fields and Trey Lance. Could be a sit behind Cousins for the future type deal, which seems to be all the rage now for young guys who need a little bit more polishing. And was able to
does he want to learn from Kirk Cousins?
I don't think anyone wants to do that.
I think you keep them in separate lockers, you know what I mean? And then they were able to keep addressing the offensive line with Wyatt Davis, who is a steal at pick 86 out of Ohio State. That dude's an absolute road grader at the guard position. So, I mean, they might have now at least solidified the offensive line for a little bit. Chaz Serrata, UNC. And then keep going down the board. They grabbed Jalen Twyman in the 6th. Like Jalen Twyman out of Pittsburgh, like the one who made all the hype in from the defensive tackle position, benching like 40 reps. And the 41st he made a stink. 41st rep didn't count because he didn't luck out all the way. 40 reps at 225 out of a defensive tackle.
This man made it to the 6th round?
Yeah, to the 6th round, and he's like he's physically, if you look at him, he looks like an identical clone of Aaron Donald, and the numbers actually line up very well. That is not me saying he's going to be Aaron Donald. Okay, that's me comparing the physical traits to the production in college. So I mean, he opted out because of COVID to learn the ranks more professionally. But in the 6th round, I think Rick Spielman did a very good job in this year's draft. And I'm going to stick in the NFC North for my loser, the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
Again.
Back-to-back champs.
Damn, double homicide.
this isn't even like a. To me, this isn't even a fun way to watch this organization fall because, I don't even know if it's like fun, but it's like this is so weird. Like it's such a weird thing to watch happen. Like from
you
both
love
sides.
You love it.
Yeah,
You love it.
I do love the overall idea.
How can you so political about this? Go wish him a happy career on Jeopardy.
Huh?
Go wish him a happy career on Jeopardy.
I do, but to watch both sides just be lying and talking out of both sides of their mouth to the media and each other, like for me, like professionally, to go into your job and say, hey, I'm only going to stay if you fire my immediate boss is a very weird proposition. Like, you know what I mean?
He's not the first one to do it. He's not the first one to do it.
I'm just saying. And then to bring it back to the draft, like they really didn't do anything to help
corner,
to help their case.
They literally had the first team All-Pro corner last year.
What? I didn't hear you.
I said they literally have one of the first team All-Pro corners, and I believe they had a second team All-Pro.
Isn't going to reach for the first.
That's what he's saying. No, he's saying that like they took a cornerback.
Not only is he reaching
the
position they probably need the least.
Yeah, when they have a first. When they have a first.
Eric Stokes is a reach in the first. The guy you grabbed to replace Corey Linsley is another reach. You could have gotten him in round 3, maybe even round 4, and then to just skip over people like Anthony Schwartz and other receivers that were on the board to grab another A-Rod as your best pitch to like the important A-Rod. Like, what are we doing here? Like, maybe Gutenunst or however you want to say it, maybe he should be fired just on merit, not just because some dude is your starting quarterback is angry at him. Like this is 2 straight drafts where you're looking at it and being like, this is a real head scratcher and bordering on terrible. Like to grab AJ Dillon as high as they did last year, like the Packers are a dumpster fire, and you can see it from every coast because it's burning pretty bright in Wisconsin right now. That's
crazy to think that Bateman was on the board at 29 and went a pick later. Crazy,
isn't that crazy?
What are we doing? I'm higher on Bateman than a lot of people, but like seriously, like what are we doing here, Wisconsin? Like
and the new GM has a scapegoat built in because Jordan Love is the previous GM's pick. So if you want to right the wrong, if you really mean to Aaron Rodgers, like, hey, we really want to stick by you, you can undo that. Like, that's not your pick. If you gotta do something with Jordan Love or make it painstakingly clear that like your time is not anywhere near the future until this guy decides to leave, like you can do that. That you didn't adopt him as your draft pick as well. But to miss that opportunity and then to double whammy it with still not getting him any help at weapons, it's tough.
It's a tough watch. So we'll all have our eyes glued to Green Bay because there's already been some pretty good mock-ups of Aaron Rodgers in some other teams' uniforms, being Denver Broncos and Las Vegas Raiders out there. And I gotta be honest,
he can go out there. He can go out there
in the green and gold. I'll tell you what, boys. But we're gonna move into buy or sell, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell you a statement, and you're gonna tell me whether you buy or sell it. So, Fred, buy or sell Devonta Smith's first year as an Eagles wide receiver? I don't have the projections right in front of me. If anybody knows the projections off the top of their head,
I'll grab them. I know they were in our text convo. I'll grab them.
Okay, all right. So, Fred, while we do that, they're pulling those projections up.
I got them. Let me know.
Okay, what we got?
So if you guys are familiar with Warren Sharp, he's football analyst. He started as a fantasy guy, but now he works with NBC. He was doing quick hitter prediction articles for a lot of the first round guys on draft night, and his projected stats for Devonta Smith next year: 108 targets, 64 catches, 884 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Those are good.
Interesting.
Friends.
While we get Fred back in here, oh, here he is. Read those projections for us one more time, Max.
I got you. Fred, the prediction article says 108 targets, 64 catches, 884 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Buy or sell, Fred?
Ooh, I'm selling that. I mean, That's, I mean, our wide receivers aren't known, we spread the love around, and I don't see that changing. We have we have decent wide receivers that I think are still valuable. Travis Fulgham, he still deserves that ball. Greg Ward deserves that ball. Miles Sanders is going to get that ball. We're going to spread the love. So I just think that's a little too high. So I would sell on those.
Interesting. JJ, buy or sell those projections?
I don't know if they're banking on the connection that Devonta Smith and Jalen Hurts maybe still have from their 1 year at Alabama, but 118 targets I think is wild for the exact reason that Fred said. Like that's a whole lot of targets, and he's still not. He may be your number one by the time the season starts, but I think right now he's probably number 2 next to Jalen Reagor. The 5 touchdowns makes it a little enticing, because I can see 5 touchdowns. It's not crazy, but that's a productive season for a rookie. But I got to sell the projections as a whole. Like that is, if the Eagles offense is lighting the world on fire, that's what Devonta Smith is ending with. 884 yards too is lofty.
Yeah.
Interesting. Max, so you read us those projections. You had eyes on them. You were buying or selling those?
I'm actually selling them because I think they might be too low. I guess maybe I am a little bit more bought into the Hurts connection more than you guys apparently. But I mean, I think that it's very remiss to say anything other than he is the clear number 1 receiver day one. Like who's better? Who's a better all around receiver?
Your first round pick last year. Your first round pick last year.
Is not a more well-rounded receiver. He never was touted as a well-rounded receiver.
I'm sorry, this was the guy you took over Justin Jefferson, Max. This was the great pick in the first round last year, wasn't it? Wasn't this the right pick last year?
Okay, and wouldn't it be stubborn to try admitting that he's a better receiver than Devonta Smith?
It was stubborn for you to defend it in the first place when we had a year of Justin Jefferson and a year of Jalen Reagor. So I just thought that was your number 1 guy because you guys spent a first round pick on him last year. I thought that was it.
I mean, no. To me, it's pretty simple. Whoever the best player is going to be the number 1 guy, and Devonta Smith is, in my eyes, I'll take him right now as a number 1. So I guess we're going to agree to disagree here. But in my mind, I think if this guy's a clear number 1, I think those are maybe not the targets number is low. I'm having a hard time buying the difference between 108 targets and 64 catches. When this guy is known for how good his hands and route running are. If this guy gets 108 targets, he is going to smash 1,000 yards, I think.
And you think 100? You think he gets over 100 targets this season? I get there's an extra game, but
kinda. I mean,
108.
I'll say I can definitely see a world where the ball is spread out enough where nobody gets 100 targets. But in my mind, I think he's going to assert himself as the clear alpha in the passing game, and I think that'll lead to him getting around that number of targets. I think 5 touchdowns is maybe the thing I would agree with the most, just because I know this Eagles offense is going to have a hard time scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I think I have to sell the projections as a whole, just because I think I agree that the targets are just way too high. I think to start off with that, I think having Smith is going to do very good things for Jalen Reagor. That being said, I don't know if he's going to blow the roof off the place. I don't know if he's going to turn into what everybody expected him to be, but I think he's going to be better just having another guy opposite him that can take the roof off it. I would say the targets are high, but I think I could easily see 5 touchdowns. I think 5 touchdowns is easily the most attainable projection right there. I actually think the yards, I could see him grabbing around 800 yards just because of the type of player he is and how he's going to be used in the offense. So I don't think that's too far off, but like the projections for the targets, I think it's just way too high for me in what the Eagles like to do. Like Fred mentioned, they're going to spread the ball around. So it's I think I have to sell them as a whole. I think there are 2 attainable projections in there. So I guess we'll see. Our next buy or sell and our last question for tonight. Oh boy, Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 overall pick, which it seemed like since high school. Like we've heard about this kid. We've heard about this kid since literally his high school ball. It seems like he's just been penciled in at the number 1 spot whenever he gets to the draft since high school. So buy or sell? I'm going to come back around. And Fred, we're going to end it with you. So I want to send it to Max first. Trevor Lawrence will have the best career from this year's draft class, the 2021 NFL draft, buy or sell?
As a whole, I'm going to buy that. I think this guy will leave his mark on the game of football. I think that's the easiest way to put it. He will leave his mark on the game. Maybe it won't be all with Jacksonville because we know how that franchise can be.
Right.
But I think that in 12 to 15 years from now, because Trevor Lawrence is a guy who's been pretty healthy his whole career. He clearly loves the game. Like it's pretty easy to just kind of smell yourself when you've been the number one pick in the 2021 draft since you were 17. Clearly the dude plays because he loves the game, and I think that's ultimately the most important driving factor for the guys who leave all-time legacies, right? Everyone at who's played 10 years, they've got enough money to live comfortably, but guys with that kind of competitive drive and the talent to match it are few and far between.
Love it. JJ, buy or sell Trevor Lawrence having the best career?
From opposite sides of the coin to exactly the same side of the coin, me and you digits. Like I completely agree. And the confidence and conviction you say it with, like I believe it as well. Like there is a reason why this is the highest touted prospect literally of all time. Like the highest rated prospect, not just QB, but highest rated prospect in NFL like draft history. And since he was, a freshman at Clemson winning a national title. But I think one of the biggest reasons why he's going to have a great career is Urban Meyer. Like, I think Urban Meyer coming from the college ranks with Trevor Lawrence, I think is going to make it for an easier transition. I'm not saying Urban Meyer is going to be the best coach in the NFL, but I think Urban Meyer is going to get the transition to the NFL of Trevor Lawrence because he's doing it as well. Like he's just seen the game at a college level, just like Trevor Lawrence has just seen the game at a college level. And Urban Meyer's a winner. Like, this is 2 national championships under his belt. So he's coming in with a very good coach. And I think it's going to set him up for a really good career. You could have your conviction, you could have your predispositions of Urban Meyer all you want. I think it's going to set him up to have a great transition as the number 1 overall quarterback on a team who's not that good, on a team who's not good at all, and a franchise that's had its meltdowns. It's at least going to put him on the right foot. And I agree. I'm buying all of it that Trevor Lawrence is going to have the best career of this draft class.
Interesting. Fred, I don't know whether you're buying or selling this statement as a whole, but I saw that reaction there for the Urban Meyer point. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I'm selling that. It's funny you brought that up because I was thinking the exact opposite. That's his problem. Is Urban Meyer's the coach? He's a college coach. Nick Saban. How'd the pros go for Nick Saban? Not great. So I just don't think.
Okay.
I just, I think one, there's other players who have the chance to just break out and have great years. I do think Justin Fields has a chance to be better than Trevor Lawrence. Call me crazy if you want, but I don't know. I think there's too much talent to say that he's for sure going to be the best person in this draft, career wise. I just don't. I don't know. I'm not buying it.
That's fair. But for Fred, for every Nick Saban, there's a Jimmy Johnson. For every coach that didn't succeed going to the pros, there's a coach who did. And national championships are national championships, baby. Like he's just coming over one.
Yeah, but
you're knows how to coach. He might be might not be the most ethical guy in the world, but the NFL don't care about that.
Hey, Jacksonville might need a little shystiness. They might need a little backdoor. You know what I mean? They might need some.
Yeah, but he's had better players at Florida and Ohio State than he'll have at Jacksonville.
I hear you. He's got all of those are professional players though. All of those he's working with 6, 7, 8 pros on those college teams. He's working with all pros now. All of them are professional players. So we'll see.
And of course, there's no love lost there between Fred and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Obviously,
of course, Michigan man.
I think I'm going to sell this, boys. I think I'm going to sell this.
Sunshine?
Kellen Mond?
I'm going to sell this because he was taken at number 4. Like, I think we're forgetting that.
Not out Philly football.
Credit to us. This is the first time we said Kyle Pitts' name all show.
That's true.
No, we haven't talked about Kyle Pitts at all. This kid is the closest thing to the like, just take like the outline. Just put Shannon Sharp on paper, not like it's just his measurables and what he did. This is the closest thing to what Shannon Sharp looks like on paper. since Shannon Sharp. Like it's incredible. And Philly area native. He went to Archbishop Wood, so obviously rooting for the kid because of that. But I think I don't know how to say this without like knocking on wood or something, but like I'll just come out and say it. I'm pretty damn sure that Kyle Pitts is going to have a borderline, if not full-fledged, Hall of Fame career. Like if we're really looking at it, Julio Jones put together a Hall of Fame career, granted with a much younger Matt Ryan, but Arthur Smith is a very good offensive coach in his own right, and I mean, with the ghost of Matt Ryan, they still had a pretty decent passing attack last year. And who knows? You give Arthur Smith a young QB to develop and give the keys to with an extremely young Kyle Pitts, who, let's be honest, isn't a wide receiver, isn't a tight end. He is a receiver. I'm not going to say a wide receiver. He is a receiver. He's a freak athlete. I think we're looking at Kyle Pitts 10 years down the road and saying, yeah, this kid was by far and away, maybe not by far and away, but he is for sure the best player from this 21 draft class. And obviously we'll go jacket.
And Banner's like, I may not disagree with that. Like he was the best player, but when you say have the best career, I'm taking all of like the narratives and context into play. When you're talking about the game of football, it's much harder for someone to have the best career as a tight end than it is to have, as a quarterback. Like it's a quarterback-driven league. But we're going to look down the road, and Trevor Lawrence's numbers probably are going to be wild. And Kyle Pitts' numbers are probably going to be wild too, but we're going to look at Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback. And if Trevor Lawrence wins a Super Bowl, wins an MVP, like that's going to put him above Kyle Pitts just for that sure factor.
Even Kyle Pitts is a Hall.
I agree. If Trevor Lawrence gets a Super Bowl and an MVP, he very well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if Trevor Lawrence gets a Super Bowl and an MVP, they're both Hall of Famers. Like they're both going to be there, and you're going to give the edge.
Whoa! Getting a Super Bowl ring and an MVP does not make you a Hall of Famer. Let's get that out there.
I mean, you have to have a pretty short career for it.
You're gonna I don't know. There's not much else you got to do to get in the Hall of Fame in the NFL. As a quarterback,
if you win a Super Bowl, the guys without a ring or an MVP.
Like as a quarterback, if you win the Super Bowl and an MVP, you're probably can't bound.
Okay, all right, we can have a very long argument about that off the air, but I didn't hear.
Imagine this. Give Cam Newton a Super Bowl. Give Cam Newton a Super Bowl along with his MVP and the same career. He goes to Cam, right?
No.
Oh.
No. And let me say this. I didn't hear anybody on this program who was buying Trevor Lawrence having the best career mention the Hall of Fame potential. I didn't hear anybody saying he's on his way to a gold jacket.
We mentioned something better than Hall of Fame potential being the number one prospect
ever. That was given. He's the number one overall pick. Every number one overall pick is projected to be that. Like the number one overall pick for a reason.
I don't know here. I don't know, boys. That argument's a little shaky to me. I'm a little shaky to me. I'm taking Kyle Pitts. I think this kid's going to blow us all away. I think he's going to have the best career. So I'm selling this statement. Let me clarify. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence is going to have a bad career. I think he's going to be an exceptional NFL quarterback. But the guy who slipped to number 4 is looking pretty good right now with a wide receiving core of Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, and let's not forget the other tight end on that roster, Austin Hooper, who can carry a pretty
Hayden Hurst. Hooper's on Cleveland.
Hayden Hurst. I apologize. One of those two. You know what I mean? One of those two guys. Hayden Hurst. That is a prolific passing offense. That's going to wrap up our buy or sell, and I'm buying us as a whole. You can find us wherever you get your podcast, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other place that Anchor makes their podcast to. We're going to wrap up our show today with a little bit of tap outs. And Fred, I'm not going to put you on the spot right away. Don't worry, I'm not that kind of guy. So, tap outs. I'm going to go.
I got something. I think I'd like to go last.
Okay, you go last. Hey, that's fun. Okay.
I'll go after you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll tap it out in saying I'm not looking forward to my second vaccine shot. And I got the Pfizer one, and I'll be honest, boys, I think I got the reaction from the first shot that a lot of people say they get from the second shot. Like I was beat. Like I felt like I had a fever. Like my arm was sore as hell. And if I got that from the first shot, like I might be down and out.
Second shot's coming for you.
Second shot. Yeah, he got one for you.
I kind of feel like a bitch for saying that, but like I was down and out for a little bit there from the first shot. Like I might be like KO'd from the second one, but that is not to say that you shouldn't get your vaccine. Philadelphia actually has a surplus of vaccines right now. It's so easy. I got my first one. I walk right in. So you can probably find one at your neighborhood CVS or anywhere. There's a bunch of walk-in sites. Go get your vaccine before they expire, because that's what we're running into. A lot of doses are actually expiring. So if you haven't, super easy. Go on, get vaccinated. JJ, you going?
I'm going. Echo the sentiment about the vaccine. I got my first one on Saturday. My arm is killing me. Like can't raise it past like here. No symptoms yet. So I'm Team Moderna. So let's ride. Everyone get vaccinated for sure. But my tap out is I just got to give a shout out to someone or something, a brand in particular, because a lot of things in this day and age get washed out for the culture, sold out, gentrified, whatever term you want to use it. And there's something that is just held tried and true for the streets, and it's Arizona Iced Tea, the company, because in 2021, them Jones are still rocking for $1, and they still bust out the frame. Like they are still the best iced teas that I ever had. And I've been on this crazy Arizona kick for like 2-3 months now. I don't see myself ever going back. And it just amazes me every time they ring out and they say $1.06. I'm like, y'all really? This is really $1? Like this beautiful, this great drink is really $1.
Enormous can.
Enormous can. I'm like, y'all. Like I want to give the clerk a hug every single time. I can't show it on camera because they are not a proud partner of Trust the Process Live in my new Philly. Not yet, Arizona. If you want to hop on, absolutely. We can all have an Arizona in the background. I'm sure we'd all be okay with it. But I just had to give them shine because I do a little like kiss up to the sky every time I buy one because it's just
the day it went over $1 though. I was kind of kicked in the face. I had a dollar bill on me. And they said $1.06. And
tax will get you sometimes, depending on where you get it. Yeah,
like inflation really hits hard when Arizona goes over $1. You know we're in dire straits. You know what I mean?
No, world's over. We're never coming back.
I was trying to get like something in me, and I was like, let me get this Arizona real quick. Okay, that'll be $1.06. $1.06.
$1.06. Tax.
Like when they made McChicken's $1.06 or like $1.08 or whatever.
Tax.
The rich get richer. Fred, tap outs. Like I told you over the phone earlier, you got 30 seconds to a minute. Anything under the sun you want to talk about. So what are you tapping us out with?
I guess first I'll just support that message. Every week I buy one Arnold Palmer and one raspberry iced tea.
Oh, Fred!
And they don't do the tax on that, so it's $1 every time in and out.
For the brand.
Just for the brand, exactly.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep. So I guess for me, I'm just frustrated with NBA lately. I've been gambling on it. I like to jump on it in the morning when the lines are pretty fresh. But then, by 5 o'clock, half the team is sitting out. I looked at the Pistons starting lineup tonight against the Orlando Magic, and I don't even know if they're both going to have 5 players out on the court today. At least 9 players of each team were out today. Granted, I'm not dumb enough to bet on the Pistons or Orlando Magic. It just kind of goes to show, I try to get ahead of the lines and bet it in the morning and think I have a good deal, and then LeBron James and Anthony Davis are sitting out, and then I'm screwed. So
they always know something you don't, Fred. They always know something you don't, man.
Exactly. So it's just frustration of load management, as they call it. But now it's not just me taking it personally of like, oh, I don't get to see them on TV. Now they're costing me a pretty penny if they decide to sit out. And I think I have a good line, but then I don't.
Right.
It's NBA has definitely been tough to bet lately, and I got to be honest, I'm on a little bit of a hiatus. I'm a big believer in whenever a juicy 10-leg parlay falls through on me, I take a little bit off. And Fred, real quick, I came back from my hiatus earlier this year. I lost a 12-leg parlay that would have paid out over $12,000 last year in the playoffs with Bam Adebayo on over 8.5 rebounds. Now, you hear that, and you think that is an immediate lock.
For sure, right, for sure.
He was the 12th leg of this 12-leg parlay, and he missed it at 7 rebounds. And I took a hiatus, Fred. I took a hiatus. It's been tough. It's really been tough.
You didn't take a sledgehammer to the TV. I'm surprised the hiatus is all you took.
I didn't because I just don't have a sledgehammer. If I had one, it would have. But, oh, boy. Max, what did you say for last?
All right, boys. I got a pretty grown up announcement to make here. I had an offer accepted on a house today.
Digits, let's go.
Still got to go through all the closing process and all that stuff, but we're officially at least at the top of the hill where I feel comfortable saying this. A month ago, I was looking into renting a property, just because I thought I wasn't going to be able to buy, and turns out I was. So. Pretty pumped, man. Pretty pumped. And, not going to be in there for another 2 months or so, but just a pretty surreal feeling to know that I'm not going to have to pay someone else's rent for another year. That's a pretty nice feeling.
There you go, man. Congrats. I'll call you 6 digits now. Yeah. You get a digit now.
Oh, man. Well, you still going to be in the Philly area? You still going to be in Philly?
Yeah, I'm moving basically right next to 5th and Berks without dropping the full address out there. Right now.
Love it, man. Love that. That is beautiful.
I love it.
We're ending the show on a good note here, boys.
I love that.
I think it's fair. I'm glad I waited to go to last. You're in a bad spot if you're tapping out after me and I just dropped the house. A lot of my friends don't even know. This is as exclusive as a scoop as we get here.
You're talking about buying a house. I'm talking about buying Arizona for $1. We are not the same right now. We're not the same right now.
Oh, man. That's going to do it here.
I'm going to have to start buying dollar drinks. I can't afford fancy Gatorade or anything like that anymore.
All right. Water out the tap.
Oh, man. Hey, with that good news, that's going to be it for us here on Trust the Process Live. A huge shout out to PHL Sports Nation for sending us our guy, Fred Jolicoeur. It has been a pleasure, my man. Anytime you are free, we would love to have you back on. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you. So, hey, we'll catch you next week. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, we are brought to you by Mind in Philly, where something's always new. And everything's always Philly, man. Thanks again to PHL Sports Nation and Fred Jolicoeur. Have a great rest of the night, Philadelphia.